Good afternoon, beautiful ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this English debate competition. This competition is held in commemoration of National Education Day 2021. My name is and I will be the moderator in this debating competition. First of all, I ask the first speaker of both teams to take the luxury for your position. And now I ask the first speaker to choose the provided motion. So, I will give chance to both of them, affirmative and negative them, to introduce your team. Time is yours. Let's start with the affirmative team.
For the time is given to us. So let me introduce ourselves. My name is Angelica and I will be speaking as the first speaker. My friend over here is Koyo Semi-Human. He will be speaking as the second speaker. And my friend over there is Grace Farian. She will speak as the third speaker. Thank you very much.
Thank you, affirmative team. And let's take to the negative team.
Okay, it's a great honor for our team to participate in this debate. It's a great honor for our team to participate in this debate competition. And we proudly introduce ourselves. My name is Davis Morisega, and I will speak as the first speaker. Maria Delvina Kalispasiba as the second speaker, and Teresa Alexandra Alejandro as the third speaker.
Okay, thank you. And now I will introduce the judges for this debate. The first one is Mrs. Stofian Lima. And the second one is Mr. Jelly. And the third one is Ms. Maria. Okay. The topic or the motion for this debate is this house support the school's reopening. Is it clear? And now this time is for case building. You have 15 minutes for case building. You may start now. building is over. And I remind you, the affirmative and negative team, don't forget to obey the rules. Now, I call the first speaker of affirmative team to deliver your statement. Time is yours.
Thank you for the time and chance of coming to me. So, our today's motion is this House supports the school reopening. Now, we are going to specify it only in the green zones in Indonesia. First of all, let me define this motion. Reopening. Reopening is the present participle of reopening. Based on Holland's dictionary, reopen means to open again or to begin again. So it means school reopening means to open again educational facilities or schools. Green zones. Green zones in the case of COVID-19 means these are areas with 0 confirmed cases or no confirmed cases in the last 21 days. Today we are going to discuss it from the psychological and economical point of view. There are several green zones in Indonesia. For example, in North Sumatra, there is West, North, and South Nias. In North Maluku, there is Tarian. In Maluku, there is the eastern part of Serang. In Papua, there is Yakimo, Mandaramudaya, and dunia. And these areas are often territories for implementing the school of reopening program because of their low COVID status. So there are several reasons why we believe that we should do the school reopening in the green zones in Indonesia. First of all, because of the limitations of technology. In this case, we should take into consideration that there are unstable internet connections and server crashes. It is known that Indonesia has a wide range of geographical situations, and which means that not every area in Indonesia has stable internet connection and may suffer from server crashes. The effects of these server crashes are that they could cut class participants from their classes, so it will disturb the teaching process. Second of all, there is the equity and accessibility to technology. The lack of access to technology, whether it's by economical or logistical reasons, will exclude students. And this is a big issue for those who are in the outback and lower socioeconomic regions, in which it can include Haliatu Island, Yukihimo, Mamberangoraya, and dunia. Third of all, e-learning or online learning can cause social isolation. This method causes students to suffer from the lack of interaction, remoteness, and undergoing contemplation. As a result, the students have a big load of emotional impact to them. And they could also lead to several mental issues, in which such as heightened stress.
Please.
Yes, please.
So if you talk about mental health, it doesn't mean you have to take a risky steps, such as reopen school, because even in the green zone, like Indonesia or such as Papua or East Maluku, they can turn into a red zone.
Thank you for your question. So, by doing the school reopening, it means that we could increase the effects of psychological means that I stated before, and by helping them to have better mental health. So let me continue my statement. Based on SWOT.com on the 14th of October 2020, there was a survey that was done by the Association of Clinical Psychologists, or GPA, during the COVID-19 pandemic. Dr. Indriya Elgamayanti, Master of Science, stated that the high psychological problem found based on complaints and diagnosis results by clinical psychology is learning barriers, especially in children and adults.
that have difficulties in infrastructure and transportation.
Okay, thank you for your question. Based on what I stated before, the green zones in Indonesia are and by means necessary needs to be understood and for us to understand their situations. And about the lack of transportation and infrastructure that you mentioned in your question. The government, or we, believe that the government could undergo such means by providing them the lanes of transportation and for them to have easier access for them to go to school. So once again, I would like to state that we strongly believe in this motion, and by the means of for us to understand and to provide better mental health for those students, especially in the green zone areas in Indonesia, which they also have the needs for better education. That's all from me. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you for the speaker. Let's continue to the first speaker of negative team. Time is yours.
Thank you for the time. First of all, I would like to define some important things in our motion. So, according to Amin Subandrio, as a director of Ejikman Institute, we get a definition of going to school in this pandemic period, which is a learning process that is implemented directly where there is another direct interaction or meeting between teachers and students at schools. And green zone, stated on hiburan.com, is region that have no confirmed cases. From here, we can know that if we reopen the schools, students and teachers automatically carry out regular classes. But is it effective in this time of the pandemic? If we guarantee that there is no transmission of the virus by means of health protocols, will this be carried out properly and correctly by all schools in Indonesia? While data from the Ministry of Education and Culture shows that the number of elementary schools in Indonesia is 148,244. Then, for junior high school, there are 38,960, as well as senior high school, there are 13,455, and vocational high school, there are 13,710. Can we guarantee that thousands of schools in Indonesia can implement health protocols correctly? This is definitely will be dangerous, even in a green zone, because children are very vulnerable to contracting the coronavirus, and they have not been allowed to be vaccinated. Based on the data from Ministry of Health, 831 children in Indonesia are positive for COVID-19, which is 4% of the total number of positive people in Indonesia. No, thank you. Meanwhile, the age of infected children ranges from 0 to 14 years. No, thank you. From this data, there are 129 children. No, thank you. Who died with the patient's status under supervision, and 14 children. Yes, please.
Okay, so it is true that we cannot guarantee if we reopen the school, there will be no cases. But you must also consider that if at this rate, if we continue this like this way, that like online learning, so what is your solution to this problem? So if at this rate, there will be so many negative impacts with the online learning. So what is your solution to this problem?
You will find the dictation in the last. So I will continue. Reported from Compass.com April 28, 2021, a list of green zone areas, namely North Nias, South Nias, West Nias, Talian Island, Arfak Mountains, Yarukimo Papua, Membramo Papua, and Serang East Maluku is the green zone. But green areas in between have difficulties on transportation, such as in Yarukimo Papua. For example, in Tama village, is flanked by mountains and can be reached from schools such as Infras Wamerek Elementary School, Tama Junior High School, for about 3 hours by using a car, and walking for about 10 hours. Once again, 10 hours. Can you imagine? They have so many difficulties on transportation and infrastructure. From these issues, do you still agree with this motion? And on April 27, 2021, no thank you, the Corona red zone has reached, and the largest contributor to the Corona red zone comes from Sumatera Island, especially, no thank you, in Rio province, which now has 4 regions with the status of the Corona red zone. Yes, please.
Okay, so once again, I will re-clarify my question before. So, if you do not agree about the schools should not be reopened, so what is your solution to this problem? How can we undergo schools at this rate?
So we provide a solution, especially for internet. For those who had problem in internet connection, we can use task shift. So where tasks were taken and given in turn without having to meet in person. So I will continue. One of them is by carry out the regular classes areas that into the red zone, such as Aceh, North Sumatra, DKI Jakarta, West Java, and East Nusa Tenggara. This is stated by 2 leaders of the task force for the acceleration of COVID-19 handling, Biku Adi Sasmito. And once again, I would like to restate that we strongly disagree with this motion because even in the green areas, they have difficulties such as in Yarukimo, Papua. Such as in Yarukimo, Papua, they have difficulties in transportation and infrastructure. We have to reconsider again about this motion. We have to reconsider about reopening the schools, and also thousands of schools in Indonesia cannot provide the facilities, the good facilities for the health protocols, and schools, not all of the schools in Indonesia can carry out regular classes and properly implemented health protocols. That's all.
Okay, thank you. And now let's continue to the second speaker of alternative team. Time is yours.
Okay, so I will support my first speaker arguments and will provide some data about the reopening school. But before that, I would like to rebut your statement before that when I asked you a question, your solution is use some kind of application that gives some kind of task with a limited time. But I think that your information is not sufficient. But why only that? Why your information is only that? But we might there are still many things that can be found. So, first of all, I would like to state that we totally agree to this motion about the reopening schools, because according to our research, Minister of Education and Culture, Nadine Makarim, plans to start in-person learning at schools and campus in the new academic year of July 2021. He explained that the plan is expected to be realized considering the currently teachers and lecturers are starting to be injected with the COVID-19 vaccination. So, furthermore than that, the Ministry of Education and Culture, together with the COVID-19 National Task Force and a number of related ministries, announced that schools in the green zones can now conduct in-person learnings in schools. Responding to the concerns of various parties regarding the risk of COVID-19 transmissions in the school environment, the Secretary General of Ministry of Education and Culture, Ainun Naik, reiterated that the opening of in-person learning schools in the green and yellow zones must go through strict health protocols. So, strict health protocols based from kesehatan.co.id is wearing a mask, wash your hands with soaps and water, keep the distance minimum 1.5 meters, stay away from the crowd, as well limiting mobilization and interaction. In addition, if we don't reopen the schools at this rate, it will bring many negative impacts for online schooling. So, the first one is online learning is considered less effective and efficient, and learning through the online requires students to understand the materials, concepts that are presented and conveyed through the videos, PowerPoints, and online classes. The second, skills in use of the technology. There are still many teachers and students who are troubled and or confusing, experiencing in using learning media such as Zoom, Google Classroom, Google Meet, and so on. And the third one, technological development that can trigger cybercrime in online education, or learning platforms. The fourth one, the emergence of pressure and the stress experienced by the students. This pressure and stress is triggered by the boredom because learning method is monotonous. On the other hand, there is also fear of each individual about the COVID-19 pandemic. So from the yes.
Okay. So about reopening school on green zone, are you sure there will no COVID-19 cases there? And what's the reason? Meanwhile, health protocol and vaccine not protect us 100%. Remember, COVID-19 virus also spread through the air. Thank you.
Can you repeat the question?
So, are you sure there will no COVID-19 cases there? And what's the reason? Meanwhile, health protocol and vaccine not protect us 100%. And remember, COVID-19 virus also spread through the air. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for the question. Yes, I am very sure about in the green zone, the spreading rates can be lower, because if we follow the health protocol very diligently, we will surely be not infected by the COVID-19. So, let me continue my arguments. So, from the 4 points that I said, it can also lead to some cases that I found from Suara.com, that a student commits suicide because of studying online, and teachers are asked to redo school assignment from Indonesia. And this was conveyed by the Federation of Indonesia's Teachers Unions, responding to the case of students hanging themselves. Please.
So you mentioned that the negative impact of online learning is cybercrime.
Yes.
And one of them is also cyberbullying. What about bullying cases that happen in regular classes? Do you have any response to that?
So, about the bullying in regular or in-person learning, yes, it is true that bullying is surely be happen at the most of school, but that's why the teachers or the security is in here, because their task is to lead students or protect students itself. So thank you. So that is my response.
So let me continue. The FIFA is inequality of access in various regions, which often makes it difficult for students in certain areas to access networks. From this point, it can also lead to the economic conditions of students, such as, for example, smartphone nowadays costs 3 million rupiah, and the laptop, the cheapest one, costs more than 5 million rupiah. Can you imagine it? No, thank you. We also have to consider our parents or guardians' budget. We shouldn't increase the amount of their expenditure.
Yes, please.
So, what's your answer? How can you guarantee that teachers can control all of the students in the schools? Meanwhile, there are hundreds, even thousands of students in one school.
Okay, for the question. So, even there are more hundreds or thousands of students, there are still many ways to overcome the bullying problem, such as the governments or the police. So let me continue. So this data was according to the Ministry of Education itself, that if online learning is held too long, it will bring many negative impacts. So, to sum it up, we absolutely agree that schools must be reopened, because if we keep on doing the tarian method, it will bring many negative effects, such as online learning is considered less efficient and effective. There are still many teachers and students who can understand using the technology and technological development that can trigger cybercrime and inequality of access in various regions. That's all for me. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you for the second speaker. And now let's continue to the second speaker of negative. Time is yours. From our first speaker statement before, we obtained very strong data and main reasons, but before that, we want to rebut the statement from the second speaker from our team. You said that there are government and police that can handle bullying, but this is not about the government solution, but this is about the school. That's all. So, before that, once again, our team strongly disagree if school reopen, because based on the data from the Minister of Health of Republic Indonesia, on CNN Indonesia on Tuesday 27 of April 2021, the COVID-19 virus has killed more than 45,000 people in Indonesia. Meanwhile, more than 800,000 people have tested negatively for the coronavirus or recovered. So far, the highest positive cases of COVID-19 has been recorded in the Jakarta, followed by West Java and East Java. The green zone, as my first speaker said before, is not affected, and the zone that has no new cases does not mean that the areas with the green zone are completely free from the COVID-19 virus, because we have data on several areas that have been designated as green zones, but because the activities they are carrying out are back as usual. One of them is by carrying out the in-person learning areas back into the red zone, such as East Nusa Tenggara. Based on the data from team leader of the task force for the acceleration of COVID-19 handling, Wiku Adisasmito, during a video conference at Braha BNPB Jakarta, Friday, 3rd July of 2020. So we have data too from CNN Indonesia on Saturday, 21 of November 2020, that says
Indonesia has many people infected by the COVID. But you must remember that there are many millions of people that have already recovered, and lots of regions in Indonesia are ready to reopen the schools. So what's your response to this statement?
Okay, thanks for your question. In my next data, our team say that the COVID-19 task force explained the clinical trials of the COVID-19 vaccine were limited to the age range 18 to 59 years. This age group is the initial target for vaccination in Indonesia. Meanwhile, the development of vaccination for children is still being planned in several existing vaccine candidates. According to COVID-19 task force, currently there are vaccine candidates, that can be injected to seniors 60 until 89 years. So let me continue our statement. No, thank you. One of the countries where several areas have been decided as green zones. Yes, please.
So, from what you say, that the people that is 18 or over is given a vaccine. But you must know that even under age of 18, the young people's immune system is strong enough to cure from the COVID-19 disease. So, back from my question before, that many people are already recovered, and so lots of regions are ready to reopen the schools. So once again, how do you solidify your arguments?
Okay, thanks for your question. However, based on data from the Ministry of Health of Republic Indonesia, 831 children in Indonesia are positive for COVID-19 based on July 2020, which is 4% of the total number of positive people in Indonesia. Meanwhile, the age of infected children ranges from 0 to 14 years. From this data, there are 129 children who died with the patient status under supervision, and 14 children died with a positive status for COVID-19 virus. That's all. Let me continue our statement. So, one of the countries where several areas have been designated as green zones open in-person learning is during the pandemic that failed because COVID-19 cases have increased again, especially among students due to in-person learning. One of the countries is South Korea. South Korea is gradually opening schools again, starting with high school students on May 20 of 2020, then middle and elementary school students following on June 3rd. But just days after it opened, cases of COVID-19 broke out among students in Seoul and prompted hundreds of schools to close again or delay pre-opening schools. But recently, South Korea report a spike in COVID-19 cases above 343 consecutive days. No, thank you. On Wednesday, 25th of... Yes, please.
It is true that South Korea has been failed about the reopening the school. But you must know, there are also countries that has been successfully implemented the in-person learning, even with the COVID-19 disease, such as Japan or China, Thailand. For example, in Japan, 12 million students, only 2,000 of them were positive, and most of them are recovering. So this data was taken from NHK World Japan News. So how do you solidify your arguments about the countries that were failed to implement the school reopening system?
Okay, thanks for your question. That's a good question, but you can find the answer in the next statement. So, until now, the COVID-19 task force explained the clinical trials of the COVID-19 vaccine were limited to the age range of 18 to 59 years. This age group is the initial target for vaccination in Indonesia. Meanwhile, the development of vaccination for children is still being planned in several existing vaccine all from me and thank you. Okay, thank you for the second speaker of affirmative team. From negative team. And let's continue to the third speaker of affirmative team. Time is yours.
Okay, so thank you for the opportunity. The first one, we like to emphasize that we are extremely pleased with the schools reopening. Just like as our second speaker later before, the Minister of Education and Culture plans to start the in-person learning process at school in the new academic year of July 2021. Responding to the concern of various parties regarding the risk of the COVID-19 transmission to school environment, the opening of in-person learning in the green and yellow zone must go through strict health protocols. And those protocols are wearing masks, wash your hands with soap and water, keep the distance minimum 1.5 meter, stay away from the crowd, as well as meeting mobilization and isolation. And as our first speaker stated before that if the school is not reopened and the online learning still continues, there will be a lot of negative impacts in here. And the first one is the lack of access to technology, whether the economic or logistic reasons will exclude students. And it's a crucial issue in outback and lower socioeconomic areas.
Your eye, please.
No, thank you. And in addition, during this COVID-19 round, students must stay at home. And you can cause social, no, thank you. And you can guess, and you can cause social isolation.
Your eye, please.
Okay.
Okay, so you say the increase of COVID-19 can happen if we use health protocol properly. So, what about elementary school children? Will they listen to us? Thank you.
Okay, thank you for the question. And my answer is, that's where the teacher's role in guiding students to comply with health protocols. Okay, that's the question. But that's my answer. Okay, let me continue. That during this COVID-19 round, students must stay at home and it can cause social isolation. And this social isolation can cause high stress, anxiety, and negative thoughts. Just like as our first speaker stated before, that the problems must commonly found in all age groups where general stress complaints amounted 23.9%. No, thank you. Complaints of anxiety 9.1%, mood swing complaints 8.9%, and anxiety disorder. No, thank you. And psychosomatic complaint amounting 4.7%. Is that the number? And yes.
If schools are reopened, what about students who do not get the COVID-19 vaccine? While children aged 0 to 17 are also very vulnerable to contracting the COVID-19 virus, like our previous data. So, do you have any solution about that?
Okay. Thank you for the question. And my answer is, you must think about the shifting system. That's it. And as our second speaker stated before, that if online learning is continued, meanwhile, online learning is considered less effective and efficient. And skills in the use of technology is still low. There are still many teachers that are experiencing confusion in using learning media such as Zoom, Google Classroom, Google Meet, WhatsApp, and so on. And the emergence of pressure and stress experienced by students, just like the highest psychological problem found based on complaints and diagnosis results by clinical psychology is learning barriers amounting 27.2%. And it's emphasized with the cases that happen in Tarakan, North Kalimantan, there is a high school students hanging herself because she was stressed due to this online learning. Yes.
Although the school implemented the shift system, how can you guarantee the health protocol will save the children from COVID-19? How can you guarantee that the shift system can save the children from COVID-19?
Okay, thank you bifurcation, and you will find that in my next video. And so, in addition, there are also countries that have been successfully implemented this online learning, and it's Japan. If Japan can do it, why can't we? If not now, no. If not now, then when? So, we like to say that we are still agree. We are extremely agree with the school reopening. So that's all for me. Thank you very much.
The third speaker of affirmative team. Let's continue to the third speaker of negative team. Time is yours.
Thank you for the time that have been given to me. As what first speaker and second speaker said before, the green zone is not a fact, and the zone that has no new cases doesn't mean that area are completely free from COVID-19 virus, because we have data on several areas that have been designated as green zone, but because the activities they are carrying out are back as usual. One of them is by carrying out the in-person learning back into red zone, such as East Nusa Tenggara. Green area in between have difficultness on transportation, such as in Yahukino, Papua. For example, in Tama village is flanked by mountains and can be reached from school. Just imagine how difficult they in terms of transportation to get to school, plus more cases around. On April 24, 2021, the Corona red zone has reached 19 districts. That 19 region was green zone, and now just 8 regions that are green zone. So far, the highest positive cases of COVID-19 have been recorded in Jakarta, followed by Java and East Java. One of the countries where several areas have been designated as green zone opened in-person learning during the pandemic, but failed because COVID-19 cases increased again, especially among students that have in-person learning in South Korea with 320 cases. Responding to this source, child observer Sergio Mulyani said that it is good to put forward that the issue of education, but now what is more important is the health and safety of children's lives, because as long as the corona case has not decreased, very strict protection for children needs to be done. According to the Ministry of Health of the Republic of Indonesia, AMI, the COVID-19 pandemic, it is too risky if school reopen. According to the Minister of Health of the Republic of Indonesia, Mr. Budi Gunadi Sadikin, on Tuesday, 4 June 2020, via Kompas.com, that returning to school during the pandemic is...
So, from what I heard before, actually said that you do not agree that schools should be reopened because of the medical issues, the COVID spreading rates. But I didn't hear that you say more of point of view, such as academic or economic point of view, because from the data that COVID, because of the online learning, many students academic grades is down. This is taken based from economic.go.id, because that students' grades is lowered by almost 30%. So what's your response to students?
Okay, so for confidence of student, of course, we can provide solution. Now, of course, the age where technology is very much used. So, of
that the only way? Is that the tax shifting is the only way that you can prevent the COVID spreading rates? Or there are many more? Can you please give more information?
Yeah, for me, this is, for me, it's my, it's, okay, so this is one of the solutions for, one of the solutions that I have is task safe. Okay, so with the assumption of moderate transmission, opening school in 2021 can increase the symptoms of COVID-19 infection by 52.3% for university student and lecturer, 40.7% for high school teacher and student, 30. Okay, that's all for me. Thank you.
Now it's time for the request speaker to state their request first. Let's start with the affirmative step. I'm serious.
Okay, thank you for the time that's been given to me. So, as a reply speech, I will restate the statements that have been given by my fellow teammates. But first of all, I want us to highlight that the Bahasa team failed to give a solid answer from our question. Okay, so we should still remember that Nabi stated, teachers and lecturers are vaccinated and are made sure to follow the health protocols. Second, online learning expects students to understand technology and to provide themselves with said technology. This is a big obstacle for those who are in advanced and lower socioeconomic areas in which our green zones are categorized. Third, by opening schools, we can increase the quality of education and students in outback areas in which our green zones are categorized. Fourth, the younger students can be led by their teachers so they can understand and follow the health protocols properly. And so, for whatever reason, we still strongly agree with this motion. That's all from me. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Let's continue to the request speaker for negative thing. Time is yours.
First of all, I would like to restate our argument about this motion. So the first one, the green zone is not affected, and zone that has no new cases doesn't mean that the areas with the green zone are completely free from the COVID-19 virus, because we have data on several areas that have been designated as green zones. But because the activities they are carrying out are back as usual. One of them is Islamabad, and the second one is the green areas such as Yaukimo, Papua also have utilities on transportation, as I explained before in the thesis that I explained. And also, the last one is with assumption of moderate transmission. Opening schools in 2021 can increase the symptoms of COVID-19 infection by 52.3% for university students and lecturers, 40.7% for high school teachers and students, and also 37.2% for junior high school teachers and students, and 4.1% for elementary school teachers and students. And from our argument, we strongly disagree with this motion. Thank you.
Thank you for both of them, and let's give big applause for both of them. And now, I give time for the judges to give comment or feedback for both of them. Time is yours. Okay, I give time chance to the representatives of the judges to give comment and the feedback on our text.
Once again, let's give a round of applause. Okay, thank you. Overall, it was a really well-balanced debate. So I really congratulate you for that. And then we need to comment according to the criteria. There are some criteria here. What criteria are you strong or weak? Okay. I mentioned number one for organization and party. Both of the team have mostly clear and orderly parts. So very good. Okay. Both of the team. And then the use of arguments. I have to say that both of the team have strong arguments. For example, you say that those who are in green zones must implement or reopening the school. But you say you provide the data counter-attack of argument. Then some who are in green zone who tried to reopening but found new cases, right? So that's a good countering attack of the argument. So that's why we give both you say. Okay? So most relevant reasons given in support. And then also the use of examples and facts. Both of the team provide very good evidence and facts about your argument or your positions. And then use of rebuttal. We have to decide. We were discussing a while ago. We have to admit that the pro or the affirmative team has a good way of rebuttal. And then you fail to answer it in a way that it really answers the question. Okay? You have to admit it. And then the last point also, presentation style, tone of voice, use of gestures. Also, be senses. Admit that the affirmative team was so cool when they were presenting their ideas. Okay, I think there's a general comment we have to make for both of you, but overall, it was really a good debate. Thank you very much. I think that's all. Thank you.
Okay, okay, thank you so much for both team and also for the judges. Okay, once again, thank you so much for the debaters, for both team, affirmative and negative team, and also for the judges, Ms. Fanny, Mr. Jerry, and also Ms. Mary, for the comment and feedback for both team. And now debating under the motion, this House support schools reopening is over. I, as the moderator, just want to say thank you and good afternoon for all of us.